deserve the power you were given. I am Gaul, and your light is mine.
This video is going to show you a Soul Force dungeon, but with a twist. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't. That's just an important reminder for people. So this Soul Force is going to be a run with no build. The absolute opposite of what is going on with D2 over the past recent years. So all we ever hear nowadays is, "Oh, Bungie, we've power crept the game. Oh no, you've made Banner Titan so good. Stop making me use Banner Titan. You're bad, Bungie, for making it so strong." Well, then why are you using it every day? If you use it every day, Bungie's gonna think this is the right course of action. Which build crafting is in a sense, but it doesn't really work like that, which I'm going to talk about in this run. So the idea of this run is that I use no aspects, no fragments. So let's invent a modifier called Broken Light, right? I've invented it, okay, me. And you are not allowed to equip aspects or fragments and no exotic armor. So no build crafting is allowed, essentially. The run is based on the preposition that your weapons do majority of everything, basically. Disclaimer, I am using Revitalizer Blast and Solo Operator. So there is that. So I don't want you saying that. That is a thing. I am using that. But as far as like a build goes, I'm not using any build at all. And I'm using the vanilla meta in 2017 for D2, which was double primary back then with the exotic heavy Vorgeth Coil. So obviously we're doing Shattered Throne here, so you're going to see that everything changes when you haven't got a build on. Right, which at its core, you're going to look at it and say, well, why? You're just making the game more boring than what it has to be. The problem with that is, though, the more potent or powerful your build, the less you know about the game. You don't learn nothing because your stuff is melting the enemies too quickly, and you don't get to see the beauty of the enemy AI in this game. Because for all the games that I've played, even though there's some bad things about D2's enemies patterns, the AI pattern, there's a lot of good about it as well. And the less powerful you are, the more you see of that. And then you get what's known as combat experience. So what do I mean when I say combat experience? Well, I mean the day-to-day fighting adds and the juggling of your HP and avoiding their attacks. Like, think of a game like Dark Souls. What do you do in that game? I know it's not a first-person shooter, but what do you do in it? You attack and you dodge and you strategize on what you're using. In this game, if you have a super potent build, then you don't need to really dodge the enemies. You just go in and kill them, and it's done. And what I'm trying to say is you miss everything. Like, look at this. I'm up against this invisible Minotaur, which generally it wouldn't bother you that he teleports. For me, he's bothering me right now because I can't just go in with like a Strand Melee or Arc Souls or something. I'm having to actually judge every time he teleports, which I've just missed 2 coil shots because of this. So each VIP target on the Shattered Throne, for example, has an identity. So the invisible Minotaur is a teleport king, right? You've then got a Solar Knight, which does his darkness walls, which you've actually got to pay attention to now because we're not using a build. You've then got a Retaliation Sniper that is essentially an Overload champion, right? Then you've got your big Phalanxes as a VIP. Then you've got your Sniper that puts up his bubbles, and you've got to time your shot between his bubbles, lest you're not dealing damage with the loadout that I've got. So there's all these other things that come into play, right? And that's really my point, is that you're going to get a full combat experience, and it's all based on weapons. This whole setup that I'm running is based on you doing I would say 80%. If we were to just disregard Weller Raidens for one moment, then 80 to 90% of my damage is coming from my weapons. So this is more focused on your weapons, and that was the meta in 2017. Is that you really had to juggle your abilities. Apart from Torrent Nightfalls, if anyone remembers Torrent Nightfalls, then fair enough. That was an ability-based modifier. But apart from that, your damage came from weapon skill and enemy AI judgment. It didn't come from build crafting. However, there was builds, but let's put it in this sense. So when you have a sandbox where you deal damage via guns and abilities, there's a split, right? So the split, I would say, in like your D1 and D2 vanilla, the split was probably 60, 70, 30. 70% weapon damage, 30% ability damage. That was the split. If you were to ask me the split, 70% weapon damage, 30% ability damage. We are now at a place in the game where you can do 100% ability damage and no weapon damage, basically. With damage phases like Navigator with Strand Titan and stuff, right? Or even if you do like an Arc Warlock with Arc Soul, it's more like 60% ability damage and 40% weapon damage. I'm just saying that, remember, hello, D2 is a first-person shooter game at its core. Try to enjoy that element of the game, right? Which there are weapon builds that are really potent. Well, there's one in particular, Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun. Because its kit has quick reloads and stuff like that with it. So you could say that that is a weapon build, but even that has abilities with your knife, just melee and everything. And I'm just saying that it's nice to use something that doesn't revolve around abilities, because that's all we've had since the 3.0 subclasses came out, right? It's just sort of, you know, I prefer weapons. My personal preference on the split would be 70-30, or, you know, maybe 60-40 at a push. 60% weapon damage, 40% ability damage. As literally every class has a way of just killing ads with abilities. So Arc Strider Hunter, you've got something on there. Then you've got Titan, Solar Titan, or Strand Titan for ability damage only. Just punching everything. And then on a Warlock, it's a little harder to pull off, but you've got Arc Souls. You've got Controverse Hold on the Voidwalker. The thing about the Controverse Hold Voidwalker setup, though, is that you do have to do a bit of weapon damage as well to complement your grenades. So the grenades really complement weapons really well. So I think really what the issue is that we're getting too many grenades and we're getting too many melee abilities back. I'm not by no means saying that we're getting too many supers, because a Roman super is part, or a supercharge is part of the gameplay. It's part of the core gameplay that every now and then you get a super ability to use, and that should be powerful, and that should stay the same. My issue with the game is the neutral gameplay of things, right? It's not so much super usage, it's the neutral gameplay, right? Because I've been an advocate of them buffing Roman supers for a while, and they've done just that. Over the last 24 months, they've steadily buffed Roman super damage, and it's just sort of progressively got better. I'm not on about like Strand Titan, because that's always been good. I'm on about other Roman supers that needed help. Daybreak needed help. They then made Dawn Chorus, the helmet, which then all of a sudden made Daybreak usable. It's like, what? Now it's usable. And it's like, I'm a big advocate of supers. I don't think that they should nerf that. They're not going to do anything that I'm going to say in this video, right? I'm just trying to spice things up and show you an older time. Now, I haven't even talked about weapons. I'm going to talk about them now. So I've got Better Devils, a kinetic hand cannon, and Manannan, a scout rifle, which in this case it's void, but you used to be able to change the elements. There used to be an element system in D2 which would allow you to change an element on any gun. Which, in my opinion, they need to add this to crafting to diversify weapons even further and make strand weapons kinetic weapons, strand weapons stasis weapons, and have something to change elements on guns. Right? Change a void to a solar and do that. The only reason why they got rid of the element system where you could change your arc weapon to a solar weapon, etc., was because tractor cannon debuff was a problem, and stacking void weapons for debuffs was a problem in 2017/2018. More 2018, more Escalation Protocol days. That's why they changed it. We haven't got that problem anymore because a debuff's a debuff. So I feel as though they can allow us to change elements in the game now for crafting. I think that would really be the cherry on the top, and it would stop me complaining about crafting. And people like want enhanced perks and stuff. I'm not bothered about that. I would be more bothered about changing elements on my guns, right? So I think that would be amazing. So we're going to skip this part. Now we've also advocated not to use healing nade. Healing nade's too strong. I mean, we haven't got a solar weapon to extend restoration right here, so it wouldn't matter too much. But I'm not going for healing nade at all, because that's also another bit of a problem in the game, is relying on restoration too heavily, which is a problem. But certain content is curated for restoration in mind. A good example of this is Warlord's Ruin. It's actually a really good example of it, because try and do that dungeon with no HP stuff, like at all. You need to invest into something HP, whether it be Carnstein armlets with a glaive, or, you know, something health wise to help you survive. Content like that, it's hard to get away from not using something health based on a solo basis. So it sort of is what it is. Now I know I'm doing this particular dungeon. If I was to use this loadout on duality, I would really, really struggle. Like, imagine doing double primary, no health, with Warcliffe Coil, solo duality like this. It would be insanely tough, right? Which, you know, it's something that people can have a go at. So it's sort of, you know, up to you. I actually did this loadout with Prophecy. It was a couple of years ago now, when Prophecy was brand, like, sort of new. I actually done it with Better Devils and Manannan, funnily enough. So I've got to really time my abilities. It's more important to time abilities. So this is another thing. If you have less ability energy uptime, you need to be more of a master of your abilities, because there's a timing issue now. Right now, in the past, if you were a person who did spam your super, if you used your super on the wrong part of a mission or a nightfall, then you were punished for that. If you used your grenade at the wrong time, you were punished for that. If you used your healing rift at the wrong time, or your barricades, you were punished. Nowadays, you're not punished so heavily because the ability uptime is so high. So this run sort of giving you a little bit of an idea of, we time our abilities at the time when we need them, at critical moments, to speed things up. Like these Solar Knights I'm up against, having a healing rift for them is nice, right? We're going to keep we're not going to change or anything at the minute, so we're going to showcase the Manannan gameplay off. So I could have run Midnight Coup, because Midnight Coup is coming back. The original variant of Midnight Coup had Outlaw Rampage. Better Devils, what I'm using, had Explosive Payload. Now, a lot of people will say the best hand cannon during vanilla D2 was Midnight Coup, and I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. When they made it so that you were under-leveled on Nightfalls during, of all seasons, by the way, get this, season of the Osiris season, during that season, they brought out the Nightfall card, which allowed you to be under-leveled for Nightfalls. Well, guess what? People stopped using Midnight Coup for that. Do you know why? Because Better Devils does explosive damage, and Better Devils is better for endgame than what Midnight Coup is. because Rampage was harder to proc when you were so many levels under. It wasn't 25 under. You could underlevel by 90 or 100, I think. The card would go crazy. I can't remember the exact details, but it was different. They reworked the power level system for Shadowkeep. Before Shadowkeep, it was different. You could underlevel like 90 levels. It was crazy. People were using explosive payload weapons. So, because of this, Better Devils was the better gun over Midnight Coup. I'll give you a description of explosive payload, exactly what it does. Splits off 50% of your weapon's body shot damage into an explosive damage portion that deals 30% increased damage in PvE and isn't affected by damage fall off. Total damage for PvE is increased by 15% of the weapon's body shot damage. For crits, the overall increase is roughly equal to 15% divided by the crit multiplier. This works on all targets, minor, major, boss. And it does no damage fall off. So you're seeing it here. There's no damage fall off for the explosive payload portion of it. And it does flinch damage. The description doesn't say that it actually does additional flinch damage to enemies. So explosive payload saved. It literally saved us in vanilla Destiny 2. Between 2017 to 2018, explosive payload was there for you. When there was no other perk that was there for you. The Rampage was good. I like the Outlaw Rampage rules and stuff. Like, Midnight Coup was really satisfying to use. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm just saying once they started to introduce the mechanic of being under-leveled, then explosive payload weapons wins. As does high caliber rounds. High caliber rounds is also a secret goated perk that works on enemies when you're under-leveled. Did you know with this Ogre rotation, for this room, there's 2 different rotations? So things like that, people might not know with the Shattered Throne. But I'm just clearing the enemies slowly because I just want to show some gameplay of Manannan, because there'll be a lot of you that weren't around during this time. Look at the nade. So one thing on nades, when you're throwing a nade, the if you're elevated, if you jump up, the grenade goes further, as opposed to standing still. If you have momentum whilst jumping and then throw a grenade, it goes even farther. Fastball will make it go even farther still. However, I don't like fastball. You'll never see me use fastball. I just don't like the perk at all. There's a couple of reasons for that, but I'm not going to go into it for this video. But just know that when you try to do long range grenades, go for the sprint, jump, and then nade. You're more likely to hit your target, as opposed to just standing still. It won't go as far. So we're just going to skip past the Thrall way. We're max on Warcliffe Coil. So we aren't using any build, but we did allow for loaders, reserves, scavengers, and a surge switch. Just so that the video wouldn't be too long. That is the only reason. Because without surges, we may struggle to solo one phase the first boss. We will definitely solo for one phase the final boss, but the first Ogre boss we might struggle. And if it was a 2 phase, the video is just a little bit longer, and I don't want it to be too long. I want it to be a cool little idea that you watch the video for, at least watch half of the video if you can. So it's a 30-minute video. Try and watch at least 15 minutes. That'll help me out. Because if the run was 40 minutes, you're less inclined to even watch the video anyways. So that's the reason for me using Revitalize and Blast and Solo Up, is so that at least the video is not long to the point where it's a bit of a bloated video. I want the balance between bloat and creative to be right bang on in the middle. So if you message about Revitalize and Blast, I'm going to quote this timestamp to you of the reason why it was used. Because I want between bloat and creativity for the video to be in right bang in the middle of the two, so that it's not too bloated and that it's not too creative. It's right in the middle. So we're just skipping past here. We're prepared for the boss fight. Remember, there was no banners in Shattered Throne. I hear a lot of people still struggle with this Ogre boss, and the reason why you are is because you don't understand map rotation for this fight. And you don't understand the pieces of cover that the game gives you. Make sure that you wait for CP update. On the left hand side, you're going to see you can actually bypass and bug out the dungeon if you do this. And if you do that, then you need to go to orbit. and you'll lose your CP as well. I think it'll spawn you somewhere else. So look, no CP, go back for CP update. Look, new objective. Wait for new objective. We've now got 3 armor charges, which we got via our orbs, our siphons. We're going to do a surge switch. We're going to see what Warcliffe Coil can chunk for this boss, because you'll be surprised in what damage it actually does. So we're going to stand top right of the map. Think of the map as your top right, top left, bottom right. We're top right now. If we were to, look at it, we're going to do a nade behind us to try and clear out any enemies, and we're going to try and kill as many enemies as we can whilst our Well of Radiance is up, because we've got no health regen after this, apart from maybe a healing rift. That's it. So we want to try and kill all the enemies. This is where you're going to really understand how to navigate this room. With a build, you don't need to understand how to navigate the room, because you've got health regen while you walk. We have no health regen while we walk. We've got no restoration. So what do we do otherwise? Well, we've really optimized our well to maximum, whilst weakening all wizards. This is really good. Now we have no health regen, so we're going to do some good movement. When you get an elemental shield, it stuns the enemies. Isn't that good to know when you need stuff? So that's another reason why you should be matching weapons to shields always in activities when possible. If it's an activity that's really, really easy, it doesn't really matter too much though. But especially in GMs, when you're having a duel with a PvE enemy and they're almost killing you, if you get a stun by your elemental shield break, it stops them firing at you, thus saving your life. A good example, what would that be in a GM? Arc for harpies, because they melt you, the harpies. Being able to stun them with an arc weapon will stop them from killing you as fast. There's loads of examples in the game, but I'm not going to go through all that right now. So our next goal is to clear out all enemies. We're using the pieces of cover that's been provided to us. Really nice of Bungie to do that. And we're just going to kill all the enemies and weaken all Void Wizards. What I noticed from this, funnily enough, Better Devils has actually gotten a buff because it's a hand cannon. So a hand cannon's got a huge buff a season or 2 ago, and Better Devils hits like a truck. And it sounds so good as well. I don't know why they just didn't bring this weapon back as well. I don't know why they just didn't bring a ton of weapons back with Into the Light rather than just do 12. Why not just bring loads back? Like loads. And then keep that in the game instead of having, how it is. So they cherry picked the weapons they wanted. And why was Hung Jury one of them? We can get it. We can focus it at Zavala. I know it's double damage perks, but I think they messed up with the Hung Jury. They shouldn't have brought that one back. Better Devils. Why not bring that back? Although they did say they didn't want to bring too many hand cannons back, so I understand that. So we're going around the map. We're getting our petitioner's mark, right, one by one, which we've already weakened them, which I think is actually a necessity on the loadout that we're using, because we've got no special weapon. So we'll get our orbs. We'll use cover when possible. We'll navigate the room so the boss doesn't boop us. That's what I'm saying. This is why people struggle, because they don't really know how to navigate this arena, and that's why they don't do it. I know that people with restoration still can't do this. I'm doing it without restoration. So it's not that, it's just that you need that in-game knowledge, and you'll build that up by using a rubbish build. We'll do a surge switch. We're going to wait for the ogre to get behind that pillar. See the mini pillar? We're going to dunk so that he doesn't knock us back. He still does a little bit, but not too much. So we're going to get a well, debuff first, and then just all coil. This is actually chunking. I know we've got the buffs and the debuffs, and I know that, but it's still interesting to watch. Think about it like this. If Warcliffe Coil's doing this damage, imagine what Grand Overture does. You've saw me use Grand Overture in the past. I was one of the first advocates to frontier Grand Overture as saying, this weapon's good. I was one of the first to do such things, and look at you now. You're all saying, oh, it's top of DPS charts. I told you freaking 18 months ago it was good. Man, gotta listen better. So, if Warcliffe Coil does that, then what does Grand Overture do? Because Grand Overture is Warcliffe Coil. It's actually better than Warcliffe Coil, far better. It's just that it has the volley perk in Grand Overture. which is it's basically very similar. And on top of that, it's machine gun, and you don't need to reload the gun. Well, you do once during a damage phase, and that's it. So that's the one phase on the Ogre. Double primary Wallcliff Coil. D2 vanilla meta. Still doing it, still killing it. Really good. So, with Shattered Throne, the unfortunate thing about the pacing of the dungeon, even though it is a very good dungeon, and a lot of people look back on it and say, yeah, this is probably the best dungeon ever made. It isn't. I'm here to tell you that it definitely isn't. The reason why it isn't is because the pacing on the traversal sections are a skip. They're beautiful to look at, and the game design on this is like next level, but they're all just a skip, right? There's not much point to it. We're just getting to the next boss fight. You know, whereas Warlord's Ruin, there's traversal, but there's points to it because there's traps, there's secrets. The secrets in Shattered Throne, don't take it away from Shattered Throne, it's got secrets. I'm not saying it hasn't. I'm just saying that dungeons have definitely evolved since this, and Warlord's Ruin being the absolute best dungeon that we have right now. In terms of its identity as a dungeon, it literally is. You're storming a damn castle, and there's 3 bosses in there. But Shattered Throne, like, for its impact and the time that it came out, is like above charts. So you can't really judge Shattered Throne as it is today too much. You've got to say, right, well, what was its impact in 2018? Well, its impact was that it created a new genre, and if it wasn't for dungeons, I think a lot of people probably would have quit D2, because all you have is raids and nightfall, right? Once you've got all the raid loot, once you've got all the nightfall weapons, what do? Well, then there's this new activity called dungeons. And Shattered Throne created that genre. And that's now a unique selling point for every expansion, or for every time they do launch a dungeon. That's like, there's a dungeon coming. They'll release a teaser trailer, then a trailer on the day. They'll really hype up the dungeons because they know people like dungeons. And to some people prefer dungeons over raids. They're that good. I'm not saying that they are better than raids. I think raids are the best content that they make, ultimately. But like for 1 to 3 players, dungeons are just really good. I'm just farming up some ammo. We're going to put on a backup weapon just in case. It didn't really matter. It was just, I wasn't sure if Wallcliff Coil was going to do well against the Knights. But I do know that he does really... Look at this. Would you believe we nearly died to this? Who put that hole there? What? So yeah, we nearly actually died. We actually nearly lose Solar Flawless because of this. I was backing up from the Thrall, the taken Thrall, and I fell off map. The 2 Knights earlier had fell down and nearly wiped me, but it's kind of hilarious, isn't it, really? So yeah, we put on this backup fusion, which by the way is a base. It's not a souped up Cartesian coordinate. It's the original Cartesian coordinate that's sunset, and the only perk it has is Auto and Holster. It doesn't have Vorpal, it has none of that stuff, and I didn't really need it on anyways because Coil does the legwork. So we've got full ammo, we're happy, we've got maximum Coil, we've got a super, we've got grenade, we've nearly got melee, so I've got everything. I'm going to do the Shattered Throne skip, which you should know this. You jump up here to the ring and then float across. You can do this on all classes, by the way. Stompies is needed for Hunter. Titan you can do it with Line Ramparts or without, it doesn't matter. Hey, we've got the Toland rotation. It's kind of neat. So, the goal is obviously to solo 1 cycle with this loadout. That means solo 1 cycle in the Knights and the boss. Don't get me wrong, it's not too difficult. I just wasn't sure what Coil's damage would do to the Knights. But I know what it does to the boss. That's one thing for sure. So Coil's a unique weapon because it does increase damage to vehicles and certain bosses, especially wizards. For some reason, it has a unique effect on wizards. We had this in Strange Terrain where you could 1 cycle her, solo 1 phaser, the Nightfall boss. You've had it in a couple of circumstances where Coil has done massive damage. So we're going to do some Fuse Rifle damage, get a nade debuff down, and then Coil. Try and hit them all with Coil. Right, then we're going to do some fusion damage, because the thing with Coil is you may kill yourself with it. Let's be honest, that's the biggest danger with Coil. is that you might kill yourself. Then we're just going to do a little map rotation. Our well's still up. There's loads of Scions alive. One of the knights is dead. We'll pick up final forts. We need another 2, of course. Use a bit of fusion here. I believe that's all. Oh, there's one more knight. We don't need much ammo at all, so we're good. Final forts is picked up. That's our damage buff, by the way, if you didn't know how this works. Get a reload, heal and rift down. By the way, the definition of a solo flawless is to complete mission before mission complete. Warcliffe Coil tracking, hello. The damage is insane we do to this. So yeah, this is actually solo flawless because we get flawless done as we get mission complete. So that was the run on this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.